What if I told you the United States can create money without printing it? What if trillions of dollars could appear inside the economy, not through work, production, or taxes, but through a financial illusion hidden inside the system? A system so powerful, so deeply embedded that most people don't even know it exists. A system that allows the US government to fund wars, stimulate markets, bail out corporations, fuel global dominance, and transfer wealth between generations, without actually having the money in the first place. Tonight, we reveal the secret architecture behind the modern financial world, how the US created trillions from nothing, why other countries can't do the same, and what this means for the future of the global economy. Because if you follow the trail long enough, through central banking, bond markets, and digital ledgers, you discover one uncomfortable truth. Money isn't real. Debt isn't real. But power is very real. And it begins with a decision made over 100 years ago, setting the stage, the system behind the dollar. The US dollar didn't become the world's most powerful currency by accident. It happened because of a system built on three pillars. 1. The US Treasury issues government debt. 2. The Federal Reserve creates money and controls interest rates. 3. Global markets absorb US debt because they trust it more than any other asset on earth. But back in the early 1900s, the US economy was unstable. Bank runs were common. Money supply was inconsistent. And political leaders feared a national collapse. So in 1913, a group of bankers, senators, and financial insiders met in secret on Jekyll Island and designed something revolutionary: the Federal Reserve System. A central bank powerful enough to control money, yet distant enough from the public that few would ever question it. The twist: the Fed wasn't designed to print money, it was designed to create money. Not with paper, but with debt. Origins: money through debt. Here's the part that shocks most people. Every dollar in the economy starts as debt. When the US government needs money, it doesn't print bills or melt gold bars. It does something far stranger. Step 1. Treasury issues bonds. These are promises to repay in the future. Step 2. Banks and investors buy them. This gives the government money to spend. Step 3. The Federal Reserve buys the bonds from banks, but the Fed doesn't use existing money. It creates new digital dollars instantly with keystrokes. No printing, no gold, no savings, just a number appearing inside the banking system, backed by nothing but a promise. It sounds like a magic trick because it is. A trillion-dollar magic trick, and the world accepts it. Because the world trusts the US dollar more than anything else. But where did this power really come from? The answer lies in two events. 1. The Great Depression. 2. World War II. Both crises forced the US to expand the money supply like never before. And both proved something shocking. You can create new money in massive quantities, and the world won't collapse as long as people still trust you. But that trust wouldn't last forever. Rise: how the US learned to print without printing after World War II. The world looked to America as the only stable giant. Other economies were ruined. Other currencies were worthless. Other governments were drowning in debt. So global leaders agreed to a new system in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Under this system, the US dollar became the world's reserve currency. Every country needed dollars for trade, and the dollar was backed by gold, $1.35 per ounce. This gave the US an almost supernatural advantage. It could print more dollars, and other countries would hold them as savings. The US gained power, influence, global economic dominance. But then came the twist. By the late 1960s, the US had printed far more dollars than it had gold to support. Countries like France started demanding gold instead of dollars. So in 1971, President Richard Nixon shocked the world. The US removed the dollar from the gold standard, and overnight, money became an idea, not a physical asset. From that moment forward, if the US needed money, it could simply create it, with no limit, no restraint, no gold, and no permission from anyone else on earth. This was the beginning of the modern financial world, and the era of trillion-dollar debt creation. Breaking point: the trillion-dollar trick revealed when the US abandoned gold. It unlocked a new formula. Asterisk, asterisk, debt equals money, money equals power, power equals power, power equals more debt, asterisk, asterisk. Here's how it works. The Treasury issues bonds. The Fed buys those bonds. Digital dollars are created out of thin air. Those dollars enter the banking system. Banks multiply them through lending. The economy expands, inflation rises. More money must be created to sustain growth. This system is called the dollar machine. And most Americans never realize they live inside a machine that turns debt into money, and money into influence, and influence into global control. But something unexpected happened after 2008. The machine broke its own limits, because after the financial crisis, after banks collapsed, after millions lost homes, the US Fed created $4 trillion in new money from nothing. No gold, no permission, no vote, just keystrokes. Then in 2020, during the pandemic, the US created another $5 trillion almost instantly. This wasn't controversial, this wasn't questioned, it was expected. The US had discovered the ultimate financial weapon: quantitative easing, QE, infinite money, generated digitally. But infinite money has consequences. Fallout: the cost of limitless dollars creating trillions out of thin air solved short-term crises, but it created long-term instability. Side effect 1. Inflation eats the middle class. More dollars chasing the same goods means rising prices. Housing, food, rent, healthcare, everything rises, except wages. Side effect 2. Asset bubbles everywhere. Stocks rise, crypto rises, real estate explodes. Because money flows to the wealthy first. This widens inequality dramatically. Side effect 3. The world becomes dependent on the dollar. Countries borrow in dollars. Banks trade in dollars. Corporations save in dollars. And if the US prints too much, global markets shake. Side effect for debt becomes unpayable. US national debt, $10 trillion in 2008, $20 trillion in 2016, $34 trillion today. Projected $50 trillion within a decade, a number so large it could never be repaid even over multiple lifetimes. So what does the US do? It creates more money to pay the cost of the money it already created. This is where every empire in history fell. Rome debased its currency. Britain inflated away its empire. Spain destroyed itself with silver hyperinflation. But the US believes it is too powerful to fall. And maybe it's right. Because here's the twist. Failed fixes why no one can stop the money printing. Economists warn about debt. Politicians warn about spending. Analysts warn about inflation. But nothing changes. Why? 1. Cutting spending would collapse the economy. Government spending is 25% of US GDP. 2. Raising taxes is politically impossible. 3. Defaulting on debt would destroy global markets. 4. Printing more money is the easiest solution. In other words, every path leads to pain except printing money. So the US continues because it can, because the world needs dollars, because no other currency has enough trust to replace it. But this trust is slowly eroding. Countries like China, Russia, Brazil, UAE, and India are moving away from the dollar. Central banks are buying gold at record levels. Cryptocurrencies are rising. Nations are creating digital currencies to bypass the dollar system. The US can create trillions from nothing, but not forever. The machine is slowing, the cracks are widening, the world is preparing for change. Modern parallels: history is repeating. Look at history. Rome printed currency gives collapse. Weimar Germany printed gives hyperinflation. Zimbabwe printed gives destruction. Argentina printed gives repeated crises. Venezuela printed gives total collapse. Every empire that relied on infinite money faced the same fate. But the US is different. Why? Because the world still needs dollars to buy oil, pay debts, and trade globally. But the question isn't whether the US collapses, the question is how long can the illusion last and what comes after. Digital currencies, a new gold standard, a multi-currency world, a digital dollar controlled by the Fed. The answers are forming right now. 3 takeaways. -1. Money is an illusion. Trust is the real currency. The US dollar survives because the world believes in it, not because it is backed by anything real. 2. Debt is the fuel of the American financial system. Every dollar created is a dollar owed. The system cannot function without constant expansion. 3. The era of infinite money is ending. Nations, markets, and technologies are preparing for a world beyond the US debt machine. Final warning: America can create trillions from nothing, but every illusion eventually meets reality. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we do know this: the next global financial transformation has already begun, and you are living through it. Call to action: if this documentary opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and share this video, because the truth about money is never taught, it's discovered. Stay curious, stay aware, and remember, in the world of finance, nothing is created from nothing, except the money that runs the world.